The Chunin Exams Arc, specifically the Konan Crush section, is arguably the most pivotal plot point in the series. So much narrative plot points either happen or are set up for later plot points in the series. One of the events that changed the scope of the story, however, is the death of the third Hokage at the hands of Orochimaru. Hiruzen's death has a huge impact on the story in the way of putting our heroes in the sense of helplessness and confusion because their strong and wise leader is now gone, and the looming threat of Orochimaru is still present, as well as the Akatsuki. However, what if things were different? What if, per se, Orochimaru ended up being killed in the fight with Hiruzen as well? Hiruzen dying definitely affected the story, but Orochimaru dying would do so to a possibly greater extent. In fact, Orochimaru being alive in general just allows for more important plot points to eventually flesh out in Shippuden. So if he ended up being scrapped in the story, it would cause the story to take a long, offhanded turn. Now, before I start this what if, I feel like I have to lay a ground rule per se, because I'm sure most of you would say that Orochimaru could still come back due to the fact there are people with curse marks, such as the Sound 5, including Kibimaru, alive. But in order to do this what if extensively, we're gonna have to do some mental gymnastics and say that all of Orochimaru's henchmen and forces ended up being killed by the Leaf Village. I mean, to be honest, the Sound 4 specifically were pretty much right there when Orochimaru fought Hiruzen anyway, so I see it totally likely that if Kakashi and Guy led a team of a few Jonin or Anbu, that they'd be able to hunt them down and kill them. When it comes to Kibimaru, I mean, maybe we can assume that maybe he eventually dies due to his illness, or a team of elite ninja are assigned to find Orochimaru's hideout and find it through some interrogation from Ibiki or something, and they just kill Kibimaru while he's still hooked up to life support or something. Another thing that I have to mention, that even though Orochimaru ends up dying in this fight, so does Hiruzen. At first, I had the idea of keeping Hiruzen alive, but looking back, I feel like the only reasonable way that I see Hiruzen could actually kill Orochimaru is with the Reaper Death Seal, which of course means Hiruzen still dies. Maybe you can make a good case that if Hiruzen wasn't mentally nerfed at the beginning of the fight and decided to full on kill Orochimaru from the start of the fight, that he'd be able to do it without resorting to using Reaper Death Seal. But for this video topic, I'm just going to keep Hiruzen dead because I feel like it adds to the tension of the story. Also, I'm going to keep Kabuto alive. Not sure at the time of making this video if keeping him alive or killing him would drastically change the story or not, but for now I'll say that he's the only one from Orochimaru's forces that make it out of the invasion alive. So if Hiruzen is dead, there's still the need to go and find Tsunade for her to become Hokage because, I mean, Jiraiya still ain't gonna do it. And Itachi would still also invade the Leaf Village to, quote, capture Naruto, since the main reason he went to the village in the first place was really to check on Sasuke after hearing Hiruzen was killed. Things would proceed as normal. Itachi and Kisame infiltrate the village, fight Kakashi and company, and eventually run into Jiraiya and Naruto on their way to find Tsunade. Sasuke still finds them and gets the crap kicked out of him by Itachi and gets put in a coma. The whole Tsunade's bet with Naruto might be altered a little bit since Orochimaru and Kabuto aren't there. But to be honest, I feel like what could happen is I could see Tsunade agreeing to come back to the village if Naruto could master the Rasengan, which I feel like he'd be able to do since he came up with the idea of using clones to do it in the midst of battle. So Tsunade still comes back and heals Kakashi and Sasuke, and this is where the story starts to change. Because I feel like once Sasuke wakes up, he's starting to feel overwhelming feelings of inferiority towards Naruto and Itachi. He's still hungry for power, but wouldn't have a way to get it now that Orochimaru is dead. Maybe you could say that he'd maybe try and seek out Kabuto for any help, but I feel like Kabuto wouldn't care too much about Sasuke at this point and would start focusing on himself the same way he did in Shippuden after Sasuke killed Orochimaru. Someone suggested to me that maybe Tobi or Danzo would try to take or influence Sasuke to either go rogue or join the Foundation, but the threat of Itachi still looms over both of them. With Itachi still being alive, Tobi has to still keep his promise to leave Sasuke alone, and Itachi pretty much threatened Danzo before defecting from the village that if he so much as touches Sasuke, he would leak information of the village to other allied nations, and part of the reason Itachi went to the village in the first place was to warn Danzo that he was still alive and, by extension, to keep away from Sasuke. So at this point, Sasuke would be having an identity crisis in a way. He really wouldn't know what to do in order to gain more power. Some could say he'd still leave the village on his own in order to find more power, but I feel like not having the Sound 4 being around to make sure he got to the Sound Village, a team of Jonin or maybe even the same Sasuke retrieval team could still bring Sasuke back anyway. So in the end, I think Sasuke just stays in the village. From this point on, this is going to be my own opinion on what I think happens. If you feel like it doesn't make sense, by all means, let me know in the comments, but just keep in mind this is my own take on it. But I feel like the threat of the Akatsuki would still weigh on Jiraiya's mind. I could see Jiraiya going to Kakashi with a proposal. In my mind, I feel like Jiraiya would go to Tsunade and ask her if he and Kakashi can take both Naruto and Sasuke to train for 3 years the same way Jiraiya did in the main series. But instead of Jiraiya taking only Naruto, all four, Jiraiya, Naruto, Kakashi, and Sasuke would leave the village to train for 3 years. I know that might seem out of left field, but with the threat of the Akatsuki looming over Naruto and by extension the village, and Itachi being part of that organization, it might be like a we have a common enemy kind of deal. And with the threat of Orochimaru not being a thing anymore, I feel like Tsunade would be okay with sparing one Jonin to take some leave to do some training, even if it is their top Jonin, especially if both Jiraiya and Kakashi are recommending it. Now, for those thinking that this wouldn't help much, keep in mind that this is both Jiraiya and Kakashi training both Naruto and Sasuke. In other words, there's a good chance that Naruto and Sasuke both learn their respective ultimate jutsus a lot earlier than what they did. For Naruto and the Rasen Shuriken, Kakashi might suggest to forego learning the giant Rasengan and spend some time learning the Rasen Shuriken instead, which Kakashi would suggest the same training method he did in the main series with using clones to reduce the time to learn it. If we assume he is eventually able to master it, albeit a little bit longer since he may not be as strong as he was during the Akatsuki suppression arc to master it, they would eventually learn that the Rasen Shuriken could potentially damage Naruto's chakra network, which of course would then lead Jiraiya to suggest Naruto learning and mastering Sage Mode a lot earlier. And with Lord Fukasaku, I feel like it's totally possible that within the 3-year time span, that Naruto could potentially learn Sage Mode. And at the same time, with both Kakashi and Jiraiya being there, I do feel like it's possible that they would do some training to also master the Nine-Tails chakra. Maybe not quite as much as Sage Mode, but probably to the extent that he had in the main series at the very least. When it comes to Sasuke's training, however, I actually don't think much would change from the main series, except for the curse mark training, since it's possible Sasuke doesn't have the curse mark anymore now that Orochimaru is dead. Whether that is the case or not, let's just assume it is. I honestly feel as though that Sasuke would learn to use Kirin with Kakashi training him just as much as he did as Orochimaru. Because, to be honest, Kirin isn't something I feel like Orochimaru actually ended up teaching Sasuke. Even though Orochimaru can use every nature transformation, he's never really shown much proficiency with lightning style, if at all. So I'm actually under the impression Kirin is something that Sasuke learned on his own. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying Orochimaru didn't teach him that, but I feel as though if he could teach him that, that's something that Orochimaru probably would have used against the fight against Hiruzen, but that's just me. If anything, with Kakashi there, it might be something that Kakashi also knows how to do, but just can't due to his chakra limitations. Such was the case with the Rasen Shuriken training, where Kakashi knew how to incorporate change in chakra nature to the Rasengan, but just couldn't with his restrictions. I also believe Sasuke would develop his Sharingan to the same extent, if not better, with Kakashi training him. I know that he unlocked the third Tomoe Sharingan during the final Valley fight with Naruto, but to be honest, I feel that with some intense training with both Jiraiya and Kakashi, plus some obviously training bouts with Naruto, might prompt his Sharingan to develop the same way. Sasuke could also learn some other jutsu from Jiraiya and Kakashi as well, specifically more fire style ninjutsu. Sasuke might lose his ability to summon Manda, but in place of that, he might be able to learn how to summon his hawk a lot earlier than he did in the main series. Plus, I mean, if I really had to be frank, I don't see a reason Jiraiya wouldn't have Sasuke try to at least learn some toad summons. I mean, even if it is in Gamabunta, maybe some other like medium-sized toads is fair game. I don't know, that's up to y'all. Also, going on to that, with Jiraiya knowing Sasuke once had a curse mark, he might think Sasuke could learn Sage Jutsu training as well and teach him how to use Sage Mode. Now, I know that's going to be like the most left field thing, but I also don't think it's completely out of the realm of possibility, since if he knows that he once had a curse mark, then he's adapted to Sage energy before. So it's totally likely that Jiraiya can pick up on that and be like, well, it's probably a good idea for him to learn some Sage Mode as well. Again, with Sasuke eventually being able to master the Curse Mark 2 stage, I don't see it as impossible for Sasuke to adapt to learning Sage Mode, especially if he and Naruto are working together to learn how to master it. I also think Kakashi would possibly develop his skills a lot quicker than he did in the main series as well. For example, we saw how much he improved his lightning style over the course of the manga just within the time of Shippuden. He was eventually able to use a long-range lightning style attack in the Lightning Hound, and eventually was able to use lightning clones, lightning kunais, as well as the lightning capable in the war. So as unreasonable as that sounds, I don't completely see it being out of the realm of possibility, especially if he's constantly practicing his lightning style with Sasuke, and Jiraiya being there to provide any kind of support or advice. The same case can be made for Kakashi's Sharingan use. With constantly training Sasuke on his Sharingan development, I feel like Kakashi will eventually learn how to use his MS effectively, and by extension, Kamui. I do think his proficiency with Kamui would remain the same as it did in the main series with his Sharingan, since Sharingan development is a little bit different than improving your lightning style. Now, One could say the thought of Sasuke feeling deep down that he still needs to kill Naruto in order to gain the Mangu Sharingan to kill Itachi, which was the case during the Sasuke retrieval mission in the beginning of Shippuden, would still be present. But to be honest, I never really agree with that particular scene because it completely changes Sasuke's character from the guy who was against killing anyone, let alone his best friend. I mean, that particular mindset and character stayed with Sasuke all through his heavy days, even a little bit in his Taka days, where he was still holding on to morals and principles from the Leaf Village, especially no killing anybody. And besides, with the influence of Jiraiya and Kakashi there, I feel as though that won't pop up in his mind. Especially with Naruto constantly being around him, it might prompt a positive change in character for Sasuke, as alluded to by Orochimaru in the Chunin Exams, where he says Naruto holds a certain amount of influence over Sasuke to the point where he's altered Sasuke's heart and mind. Sasuke at this point would be informed by Kakashi and Jiraiya on Naruto's situation, that being, of course, that he's a Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails, which at first would conflict Sasuke, but it would also enlighten Sasuke as to why Itachi was after Naruto in the first place. And if I had to guess, I actually also think that would prompt a character change in Sasuke even more so in the case of wanting to protect Naruto instead of outright killing him. So yeah, as far as all the training goes, I think that's actually the most reasonable thing I can think of. I know that might seem out of left field, but just keep in mind, again, this is my own take on it. I don't see the reason why Jiraiya wouldn't suggest Kakashi training Sasuke even more so. And to be honest, I think it's a smart idea for them both to train together, and what better way to do it than have a Sannin and the Leaf's top Jonin training. Upon returning to the Leaf Village, things would happen around the same way they did before, where Deidara and Sasori attacked the Sand Village and captured Gaara, to which Tsunade would dispatch the original Team 7, including Sakura, whose training would probably remain the same from the main series as she did with Tsunade. At first, I did think of having Sakura go with Kakashi and Jiraiya, and Naruto and Sasuke, of course. But I think it just makes more sense for her to stay in the Leaf Village and train with Tsunade, since she ended up becoming a really strong tank and learning comparable medical ninjutsu akin to Tsunade. So I think it just makes more sense for her training specifically to stay the same. I would maybe suggest that if Tsunade can't do this, that someone else in the village maybe teach her some genjutsu or genjutsu defense, since it was hinted at in the beginning of the series that she could possibly be a good genjutsu user, but I digress. Once they get to the Sand Village to heal Kankuro, Lady Chiyo would still volunteer to accompany Team 7 to help fight Sasori, which Team Guy would also go over backup the same way they did in the main series, which means both teams would run into their respective Akatsuki 30% clones of Itachi and Kisame. Honestly, I don't see much changing in the Kisame fight. I think their fight with Kisame pretty much goes the same way as it did in the main story, but the fight with Itachi would probably go a little bit different now that they have a stronger Sasuke and Naruto. To start off, I think Itachi's genjutsu ephemeral, which he used against Naruto, won't work this time, since it'd be totally likely that Naruto and Sasuke improved their genjutsu, or rather their genjutsu defense, and with two sets of Sharingan, it's possible either Kakashi or Sasuke could detect the genjutsu before Naruto gets caught in the first place. In this fight though, I think they still beat Itachi, but Kakashi and Naruto would probably let Sasuke get the quote killing blow, since of course it's Itachi. Sasuke might also pick up on the fact that it was a 30% clone the same way Kakashi did in their fight, and it would also might prompt Sasuke to feel more confident on his ability to take on Itachi in their real fight. Things proceed as normal, where the Akatsuki extract the one tail from Gaara, and Deidara takes Gaara's body, and Sasori stays behind to fight Sakura and Chiyo. Now, the fight with Sasori would probably remain the same, but I don't think I want to change anything with that anyway, because I thought it was a great fight in its own right. And to be honest with you, if I change it a little bit, I think it would take away from Sakura and Chiyo's performance in that fight. So yeah, that fight just stays the same. But the fight, or rather chase with Deidara, might be altered a little bit. Even though Deidara would want to try and capture Naruto, the fact that Sasuke is there might affect his motivations. I mean, for one thing, he hates the Uchiha, so he might actually try to fight Sasuke on that alone. But the fact that it's Itachi's brother specifically might prompt Deidara to try to kill Sasuke strictly out of spite for Itachi. Either way, whether it's an actual fight or a chase, the fact that all three, Kakashi, Sasuke, and Naruto, who are respectively stronger than how they were in the main series, would probably, more than likely, take Deidara down. Whether it's by Kamui from Kakashi, or the Rasen Shuriken from Naruto, or even Kirin from Sasuke, or heck, maybe even sheer teamwork from all three of them, Deidara is done for, one way or the other. To be honest, I would say they could maybe capture Deidara to get some information out of him, but I don't think Deidara would let that happen, so probably he would just, see Zero rage quit in order to not spill the tea. Now, when I say see Zero rage quit, I don't mean his actual see Zero like he did against Sasuke in their fight. I'm talking about his fake suicide bomb in the Kazekage rescue arc. I don't know if they would be able to get to Data in time before he did that. I would assume so, but right now, I'm just going to say that Data gets away. Admittedly, this might be like the same case with Kabuto. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I don't know if keeping Data alive would drastically change the story, but for right now, yeah, I think it's better that he just stays alive. So things still happen as they did in the main series. They save Gaara, and Chiyo ends up sacrificing her life to bring Gaara back. And once Team Guy and Team 7 return to the village, they would get the info that Sakura received from Sasuke that he had a spy, which of course was Kabuto. And even though he might not have any info that Naruto would want, since Orochimaru is dead and Sasuke is still in the village, Sasuke might feel like he has info on Itachi, or Tsunade might suggest that they try and take Kabuto anyway, since he was still enemy of the village and was really close to Orochimaru. Plus the fact that he was once a elite village ninja and probably has some very valuable information that Tsunade would want leaked, I think they would on principle try to capture Kabuto. The problem with that though is if we assume Kabuto has been working on himself the same way he did in the main series, then there's a good possibility that he has Sage Mode. So one of two things happen. Tsunade ends up trying to make a team or two to go and find Kabuto, or to locate his hideout to try to take him alive, or they send a team of ninja, elite ninja, to try to locate a couple of other Orochimaru's hideout to see who all or what all he has in those hideouts to help, which would include the members of Hebi, or later on Taka. So they might actually get involved in some kind of way too. But this is where we have to leave off on the what if, because honestly this video is almost 20 minutes long anyway, and there's a lot more that I want to cover, but I don't want to make this video like 45 minutes. I also feel like because there's way more that can be associated with this scenario and can warrant a part 2, maybe even part 3 or 4. So if y'all want a part 2 to the story, let me know in the comments. This honestly could be my way of weaving into a rewrite of Naruto, kind of like similar to how Daigo does his, but obviously my take on it. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not that good at storytelling, so mine not be exactly as good as his, but I'm definitely gonna try my best because I actually do like doing these what ifs, and I would actually like to continue this in its own universe. I'm still open to do other what if scenarios, but just know that I actually might still continue this. So let me know in the comments what y'all think. What do you think would happen if Orochimaru was killed in the Chunin Exams Arc? Do you feel like it drastically changes the story? Or do you feel like nothing really changes at all? Either way, thank you guys for watching all the way at the end if you have. Make sure y'all like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and until the next one, LightningSnow, out.